When you actually look at a map of non-disclosure states, it's quite interesting. And I think it does have to do with this mentality that we live under. And that mentality is that we in the West like our freedom, right? And we like our privacy.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
Welcome to the program, everybody. I want to answer a question that I get frequently from appraisers. And it's one of these questions that, honestly, when I hear the question, I'm like, really? Like, not that I think it's a stupid question, but it's just so commonplace for me that it is strange to hear the question because I don't know anything else. It has to do with what a non-disclosure state is. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by Anow Software. Anow, of course, is the software that I use for my entire office management. Speaking of questions from appraisers, I had a question the other day that I want to share with you in just a little bit and answer the question about Anow Software. So hang tight for that. All right, folks, I want to talk today about what it is to live in a non-disclosure state and what that means for an appraiser. How does an appraiser, this is the question that came to me the other day, Dustin, how do you appraise in a non-disclosure state? Where do you find the comps? Well, the answer to that is actually simple, but it's kind of complex as well. Let me give you the simple answer. The simple answer, oh, by the way, let me set this up for just a second, okay? The states that I work in currently, or at least that I have license. I'm actually not currently doing much in Utah. Every once in a while, for on a favor from some lender, I might do something in Utah. It's an area I know well, but it's far enough away geographically. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do business down there. But I am licensed in Utah, Idaho, and of course Wyoming. And all three of those states are what we refer to as non-disclosure states. And non-disclosure states basically means that the tax assessor does not necessarily get the information on a sales price. So a lot of you work in disclosure states, which means by law, when you buy and sell property, you have to report, at least the way I understand it. I don't work in any of those states, so correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. But my understanding is that in disclosure states, when you purchase a property for $350,000, you have to then, whether it be you, the title company, whoever, I don't even know who actually does it, but you have to report an accurate sales price to the county assessor. And that county assessor can then take that and base their taxes off of it or do whatever they do, I guess. We work a little bit different in the West. When you actually look at a map of non-disclosure states, it's quite interesting. And I think it does have to do with this mentality that we live under. And that mentality is that we in the West like our freedom, right? And we like our privacy, and we don't like the government knowing everything about us. And so we, as states in the West, mostly, I think there's some probably back east, I haven't looked at a map in a while, but there are a minority of states that are what's called non-disclosure states. Now, the non-disclosure states that I work in, basically the gist of it is the county does not necessarily have to know your purchase price. Okay. Now, what does that mean for appraisers? That makes it very difficult for us, actually. But again, a fish doesn't know it's in water, right? And I've never known anything any different. In fact, when I have coached other appraisers across the nation and they tell me about where they go for data, I'm like, really? How would that be? Right? Now, again, I'm not saying that I'm not putting down my other appraisers and thinking that you have to do less work than me. Don't misunderstand. But you do have to do less work than me. So the question comes, Dustin, where do you get your sales data? And the answer is pretty much one place. I mean, there are other options, and I'll talk about those after the break, but pretty much it comes down to MLS. And if it's not on the MLS, guess what? Can't really use it. I'll tell you something you can use every day of your life, and that's Anow Software. The question that came to me recently from an appraiser was, Dustin, I've looked at Anow. I see what it does. I understand, but really, for a one-man office, really, Isn't it a bit overkill, and isn't it a bit expensive? Well, folks, let me just answer that question for you. The answer is no, it is not expensive. And yes, it is for a one-man office. Let me just explain very quickly. In fact, I would go so far as to go out on a limb and say, I think Now software is more important for a one-man office than it is for a multiple-person office. Okay, let me repeat that. I think Now software is more important for a one-person office than it is a multiple person or multiple appraiser office. Now, does it work great for multiple appraiser offices? Absolutely. To be able to keep track of where everybody is, whose order is what commission splits you have, all of that jazz can be done inside Now software. But I'll tell you what it does for the one-person office. For the one-person office, it allows you to be able to focus, okay? And I teach this all the time, right? Where is your most important time? If you're the doctor, it's not the receptionist. It's not being the nurse. It's not all these other things. Those are all very important positions, but that's not you. You're the doctor. Folks, you're the doctor. You're the appraiser. You don't have time to manage the numbers. You don't have time to manage the orders. Well, Dustin, I don't have anybody to do that for me. Right. That's why Now software is important. It will make your job of managing those orders. If you have nobody else working for you, no tier 1, no tier 2 people, nobody answer your phones, nobody to do data entry. By the way, I don't suggest that, but if that's you, Now software will change the game for you. It will allow you to spend more time working on your business and in your business because you're not managing your business. The software does it for you. Check them out. Go to Now software by typing in your browser, www.anow.com/coach. Again, it's anow.com/coach. Welcome back, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out in the studios today with a question from these come from various people, but I sometimes get the question from a homeowner as to where do you get the data? In fact, specifically, last week, I got a question from a homeowner. I was appraising a townhome on the west side of Idaho Falls, if you must know, and the homeowner was there, and he specifically says, can you use private sales for comps? What's a great question. If I was in a disclosure state, the answer to that would be a rousing yes, no problem. Go down to the county assessor's office, get the purchase price, get the purchase date, get the purchase details, verify that, of course, through the sources, and be able to use that. However, I work in non-disclosure states, and basically that means that the county assessor does not necessarily and hardly ever gets an accurate sales price. Now, people might report sales prices, but let's be honest, they're not always honest, okay? They don't want to be taxed at a high rate, so sometimes they'll fudge the numbers a little bit and report something lower. So really, that is not, even if a purchase price is reported at the county, it's not something that an appraiser can typically count on without some real verifications. Now, can I use a private sale? Yes. It's very difficult and very challenging, but it can be done. Part of the appraisal process is verification and making sure that your sources are trustworthy. The honest truth is, a purchase price reported, even if it is, which it often isn't, but even if it is reported at the county assessor, is not, quote unquote, trustworthy, so I've got to go to other sources. My personal corporate policy is I'm not going to use a private sale unless I can verify it from 3 sources. And one of those sources needs to be a HUD-1, because that is an official source, an official piece of paper that tells me the details that I need as an appraiser. So it makes appraising a bit more challenging in Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, these non-disclosure states, but it can be done under certain circumstances. Now, to go back to this question of this homeowner, can you use a private sale? Again, the answer is yes, but it takes a lot more verification. And frankly, it's very difficult, very challenging to get all 3 sources to where I would, as a valuation professional, feel comfortable with the information that I've received. Most of the sales that I have to use come from MLS. That's how we have to work. Now, that makes it difficult in areas such as Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where sometimes I can do a search and come up with 7 sales, and 3 of them report $1 as the sales price. They do that for privacy. Those are sales, they may be very good, quote unquote, comparables to the property, but if I don't know the sales price, it's very challenging to be able to use that as a comparable sale. Thank you for joining me today, folks. It's been fun being with you, and we'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.